because of life, how it feels.
There is one player that scares me.
Please don't say Mal.
Trying to guess what the overarching...
What the hell is going on? Give me this promise.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We talk a lot about movie stars on these deep dives.
We do.
And usually when we use that term, we're talking about charisma, we're talking about box office draw.
Yeah.
You know, the people who look great on a lunchbox.
Right, exactly.
But today, I want to start with a comparison from our source material that I think perfectly frames the deep dive we are about to take. I was reading this breakdown of modern acting styles recently, and it hit me with this incredibly bold claim.
It's a very aggressive opening, isn't it?
It really is. The argument is this. If Timothée Chalamet defined a specific era of cinema with fragility.
That sort of wounded emotional openness.
Yeah, exactly. If he defined that, then the actor we are discussing today dominates the genre with a single undeniable weapon. Her overwhelming gaze.
The gaze.
We were talking, of course, about Anya Taylor-Joy.
And what's fascinating here is that when you look at her career, especially compared to her peers, it doesn't feel accidental.
No.
It doesn't feel like she just stumbled into auditions and got lucky with a hit.
No, exactly. It feels curated.
Curated is the exact right word. If you look closely, her filmography is structured like a giant strategic chess game.
Yeah.
Every move is calculated. She didn't just drift from indie to blockbuster. She moved with intent. It's a literal case study in career construction.
It really is a checkmate in slow motion.
Yeah.
And that is our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're going to look at exactly how she went from being the absolute horror queen.
Which I know you love.
Oh, as a genre purist, it was my personal favorite version of her.
Yeah.
But how she went from that to becoming the future of cinema. We're going to do it by dissecting 5 specific decisive roles.
5 roles that define an evolution. And I think for you listening, whether you are a hardcore film buff who analyzes lighting rigs or just someone who binged the Queen's Gambit in a single weekend, this breakdown is going to change how you watch her.
Definitely.
We are seeing the definition of what a movie star looks like in the 2020s.
So let's dive right in. The first move on the board, we have to go back to 2015. The movie is The Witch.
Yes.
The Awakening. This is where it starts. She plays Thomasin, a young girl in 1630s New England, totally oppressed by her family, exiled to the edge of these creepy gray woods.
It's so bleak.
So bleak. Now, looking at this from a genre perspective, this isn't your typical slasher. This is elevated horror. It's dense, it's uncomfortable, and frankly, it's a difficult watch.
And it is an incredibly risky place to start a career. You have to remember, in 2015, horror was still fighting for respectability.
True.
For a young actress, being the scream queen can be a trap. You get pigeonholed, you become the girl who runs away from the guy with the knife, and that's it.
Huge risk. But here is the thing about her performance. And this is what blew me away rewatching it for this dive. It wasn't about the lines.
Not at all.
The dialogue is this old English King James style biblical speak. Thou art, hither and thither.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
It's clunky. It's really hard to make that sound natural.
Sure.
But the performance, it was entirely about the specific texture of her acting.
That word texture is key. If we compare her again to Chalamet, he built his initial trust with the audience through Call Me By Your Name Right.
Right.
It was romantic, emotional, very verbal, but Anya proved her acting caliber immediately in a genre that is usually dismissed by critics.
Yeah.
She didn't have the luxury of romance. She had mud and goats.
Exactly. Mud and goats.
Right?
Horrors is usually about jump scares, right? Loud noises, quick cuts. But in The Witch, the terror comes from her face.
Yes.
There's this specific moment near the end. I don't want to spoil it too much for the 3 people who haven't seen it, but she's standing in the woods. The chaos is over.
Yeah.
And you watch her face shift.
It's a crazy shift.
It goes from this look of absolute corruption and terror to this strange, ecstatic awakening. It's subtle, but it's terrifying.
Critics at the time described it as imparting an inexplicable anxiety to the audience.
Oh, I love that phrase.
It's a powerful phrase. It signaled that a new talent had arrived, not because she could scream the loudest, but because she could make you feel uneasy just by looking at you. She holds the camera's gaze in a way that feels invasive.
It's the eyes. It always comes back to those eyes. They are so wide set, so expressive. In The Witch, she holds the camera's gaze in a way that feels almost predatory by the end. She wasn't playing a victim. She was playing something.
Something other.
Yes.
Other. And that distinguishes her from the typical final girl. Usually in a debut horror role, the actor is a prop for the scares. Here she was the scare, or at least the vessel for it. She made the audience complicit in her descent.
Which sets up her next move perfectly. Because if The Witch was about establishing atmosphere and indie cred, the next role on our list was about holding her ground against a titan. We're moving to 2016. Split.
Directed by M. Night Shyamalan. This is interesting because strategically, this is her stepping into the commercial arena.
Yeah.
But she is starring alongside James McAvoy.
Who is, let's be honest, an acting monster in this one.
Oh, he's incredible.
He is playing 23 different personalities. He's chewing the scenery. He is terrifying. He is changing his voice, his posture. He's doing the most. It is a massive, loud performance.
And that is the danger for a young co-star, right? You get swallowed up, you get overshadowed because the other guy is doing 90% of the work on screen. The audience is there to see the spectacle of McAvoy.
Exactly. But she didn't get pushed back. That is what stands out in the source material. She held her ground. And she did it by doing the exact opposite of what he was doing.
The sources started labeling this role the survivor. And I think that's a crucial distinction from the victim.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the standard horror or thriller script. Her character, Casey, should have been running up the stairs, tripping over her own feet, screaming for help. You know the drill. We've seen it 1,000 times.
What does she do instead?
She got quiet. She became this stillness in the center of the storm. There is this specific scene in the car at the beginning. The other two girls are crying, panicking, banging on the windows. And the camera cuts to Casey.
She's just sitting there.
She isn't moving. Her breathing creates this tiny fog on the window. She's assessing the lock, the driver, the space. It's a masterclass in active stillness. She makes the audience lean in because she's the only one actually thinking.
That analysis is what separates her. Instead of just screaming, the typical horror trope, she coldly analyzed the situation and responded. And that shift from standard victim to a survivor who observes was a signal. It told the industry, I can hold a frame with an A-lister and I don't need to shout to do it.
It was a signal that she was taking a different path. She wasn't going to be the girl who gets saved. She was going to be the girl who figures it out. It's almost like she was playing chess even then.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture of her career strategy, Split proved she could handle a commercial hit. The Witch was indie prestige horror, very cool, very niche. Split was a box office smash.
Yeah.
It made nearly $300 million. She proved she could sit at the table with the big dogs and not blink.
Literally not blink. I feel like we are going to keep coming back to that.
Right.
But you are right. She secured the genre cred with The Witch, and she secured the mainstream thriller audience with Split.
Which brings us to the explosion. The moment the chessboard flipped and the entire world learned her name.
Roll number 3, 2020, The Queen's Gambit.
The global icon.
I mean, we can't overstate this. Do you remember the stats on this? It felt like the only thing people were talking about for 6 months.
It was ranked #1 in 63 countries.
Wow.
63. That is legitimate global saturation. And you have to remember the context. This was peak pandemic. Everyone was home. Everyone was watching.
It was everywhere. Everyone was suddenly buying chess sets. But let's look at the character Beth Harmon. For me, as someone who loves that intense, focused storytelling, this was the peak of her visual intensity. But I have to admit, at the time, I was skeptical.
Skeptical? Why?
Well, on paper, chess is not a spectator sport. It's cerebral. It's internal.
Yeah.
And the show risks becoming a caricature. The hand under the chin, the staring. It could have easily been silly.
But she made it a thriller.
She did. There are long sequences where it is just her face staring at a chessboard on the ceiling. And somehow she made the audience feel a thrill. It was the eyes again. She weaponized that gaze to show us the machinery of genius working.
That is the star power element I really want to highlight. Comparing this again to Chalamet, this is the moment comparable to when he secured mass appeal.
Right.
But for Anya, this fits the definition of the perfect birth of an icon in Hollywood history.
How so?
Because it bridged the gap. She took that niche intensity she developed in The Witch, that creepy, unblinking focus, and applied it to a drama that everyone could access.
That makes a lot of sense.
It wasn't horror anymore, but it had the tension of horror. She essentially tricked a mainstream audience into watching an intense character study by dressing it up in 60s fashion.
That is a great point. She treats the chess matches like life or death battles. The way she moves the pieces, it's violent.
Exactly. And the industry took note. This role solidified her status. It wasn't just, oh, she's a good actress. It was, she is a star. She carries the show, the fashion, the red hair, the eye. It all became iconic instantly.
Yeah.
You can see a silhouette of her from that show and know exactly who it is. That is branding.
And it proved she could lead.
Yeah.
She wasn't the co-star to McAvoy anymore. She was the main event.
But then, just when you think she's going to lean into that glamorous period piece drama lane, she pivots again. And this is where the strategy gets really interesting. A lesser actor would have done 10 more period dramas.
Instead, she pivots to something dark, weird, and hilarious. Role number 4, The Menu.
2022. A shift to black comedy.
This movie is so much fun. For anyone who missed this weird little gem, imagine a dinner party on a private island where the chef is basically a cult leader. The guests are tech bros and critics, and they're all about to die for art.
It's wild.
And in walks Anya wearing a leather jacket, looking at a foam emulsion of seawater and going, I'm sorry, are we eating this?
She plays Margot, the intellectual
Yes, she is the outsider. She is the only person in the room who isn't buying into the hype. And honestly, this might be my favorite performance of hers because how cynical it is.
That perspective is crucial for the audience. Without her, the movie is just a bunch of crazy people screaming at food. She grounds it. There's a description of her facial expressions in this film from the sources that I love. She looks at everyone else, the rich tech bros, the washed-up actor, the obsessive chef, and her face just says, is this your level?
Is this your level? I love that. It's so dismissive.
It is, but it serves a function. She served as the center weight or anchor that adjusted the tone of the entire film. She grounds the satire.
She does. She showcases this intellectual charm that is distinct from her horror roles. In The Witch, she was scared. In Split, she was surviving. In The Queen's Gambit, she was obsessed. But in The Menu, she is
over it.
She's bored by their pretension.
She's the smartest person in the room.
Exactly. She sees through the artifice. And that requires a different kind of confidence. It's not the intense stare of Beth Harmon. It's a skeptical side eye. It's the difference between looking at something and looking through it.
And it proved her versatility. She can be funny. She can be dry. She can hold her own against Ralph Fiennes, who is another heavyweight legend.
She really has a habit of standing toe-to-toe with legends and looking completely comfortable. She doesn't seem to have that, I'm just happy to be here energy. She has, I belong here energy.
Which leads us to the ultimate test, the biggest stage you can possibly step onto, the franchise blockbuster.
Role number 5, Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga.
The blockbuster anchor.
This is the big league. Action blockbuster, massive budget, explosions. And she is stepping into the massive shadow of Charlize Theron.
That is the challenge, right? Charlize Theron's Furiosa in Fury Road is one of the greatest action performances of all time. It is iconic.
Iconic. You don't just replace Charlize Theron.
So to step into that takes guts. But just as Dune cemented Chalamet and Blockbuster's Furiosa was the test for Anya, could she carry a summer tentpole movie?
But here's the crazy part, and I had to double check this because it sounds fake. Do you know how much she speaks in this movie?
It's shockingly minimal.
She had only about 30 lines of dialogue in the entire film.
Think about that. 30 lines to carry a massive action epic that runs for 2.5 hours. Most Marvel heroes have 30 lines in the first 10 minutes.
It's insane. But this brings us back to the genre purist perspective. This is pure visual storytelling. She didn't need the speeches. Her eyes staring out at that desolate wasteland replaced the need for narrative dialogue.
Exactly.
It reminds me of the silent film era actors like Buster Keaton or Falconetti who could convey an entire tragedy just by how they tilted their head.
She completed her own version of Furiosa. She didn't try to be Charlize Theron. She used her specific tool set, that overwhelming gaze, to convey the rage and the determination.
And that is why it works. If she had tried to mimic Theron's physical presence or her voice, it might not have landed. But by leaning into her own strength, that intensity, that silence, she made it her own. She screams with her eyes.
And from an industry perspective, this proves she is an irreplaceable actor who possesses both acting ability and box office power. She can do the indie horror, she can do the prestige TV drama, she can do the satire, and she can carry a summer blockbuster with almost no dialogue. That is a rare quadrant to fill.
It really is the full package. It's rare to see someone who is a critic's darling and also a box office draw. Usually you pick one.
So let's zoom out. We have looked at these 5 roles: The Witch, Split, The Queen's Gambit, The Menu, Furiosa.
What a ride. From a girl in the mud in 1630s New England to a warrior in the wasteland.
It brings us back to that core question we started with regarding the next generation of actors. What ability must they possess?
It's a heavy question. We are seeing a shift away from the traditional movie star who relies on charm and smiles.
It is, but I think the answer lies in Anya's filmography. It's not just about being pretty or being dramatic. It's a blend of strategic choices, visual intensity, and adaptability. She understands the medium of film is visual.
It's about not being boxed in.
Yeah.
She refused to just be the horror queen, even though she was amazing at it.
And she refused to just be the drama star. She constantly shifted the expectations. She played the game better than anyone else in her cohort.
And she did it all with those eyes, that overwhelming gaze. It really is her superpower.
It is. She dominates the genre with it.
But here is a thought to leave you with, and it's something that has been nagging at me since we watched Furiosa. If the biggest star of our generation can captivate the entire world with 30 lines of dialogue,
Right.
what does that say about the future of storytelling?
That's a very provocative thought.
Are we moving back to a visual language where the script matters less than the face? If she doesn't need words to be a star, does the next generation of writers even matter as much? Or is the face the new script?
That might be the scariest horror story yet.
On that cheerful note, I want to turn it over to you, the listener. We have laid out the chessboard. We have shown you the moves.
We want to know, which version of Anya do you prefer? Are you drawn to the atmospheric horror survivor of The Witch and Split?
Or are you all about the blockbuster icon, the Queen's Gambit and Furiosa version?
Or maybe you like the cynical intellectual from the menu?
It's a tough choice. But one thing is for sure, her career strategy has been a checkmate.
Absolutely.
Thanks for diving in with us. Keep watching, keep analyzing, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.